Good morning. We'll call the Economic Growth Infrastructure Committee to order at 9:36. Can we call the roll, please?
Jackson is absent with notice. Spiz?
Here.
Markham?
Here.
Powell?
Here.
Wypert?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we need a motion for the approval of the minutes. Moved by Commissioner Markham,
Second.
second by Commissioner Spiz. All right. Is there any question on them? All right, we need a voice vote.
Aye.
All aye. All nays? All in favor against it, say nay. There's all ayes have it, it passes. Sorry, it's been a few weeks since I did this. Approval of the agenda, we need a motion.
So moved.
Been moved by Commissioner Spiz,
Support.
support by Commissioner Wyper. All right, any questions, changes? Hearing none, I'll do a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, at this time, we'll have public comment. Anybody from the public want to speak? All right. Here, no public comment, we'll call it closed. All right, communication. Communications, we need a motion to, it's been moved.
I move to receive and file.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Wyper to receive files, seconded by Commissioner Powell. All right, we'll just do a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, ayes have it. Going pretty quick today. All right, now we need a motion to move to approve the items on the consent agreement.
Well, there's no consent agenda.
And there is no consent
Today.
agenda, so guess what? We don't need a motion. All right, the regular agenda. So we have, first agenda item is Water Resource Commissioner transfer and assessment of certain county interest and easement and right-of-way for the water supply and sanitary water system located in the Charter Township of Oxford.
I'll move it.
Moved by Commissioner Spiz, second by Commissioner Powell. Good morning.
Good morning.
And that was a mouthful.
Yes. I'm Kelsey Cook and Tim Prince is with me today. So this type of matters come before the board on multiple occasions. We're doing some cleanup work with the systems that we operate and maintain, both water and sanitary sewer. So this agenda item is for the Charter Township of Oxford. The county currently owns some real property and many easements from mostly the 70s and 80s where this work was improvements to the water supply and sanitary sewer system. They were bonded through the county. Now those bond obligations have been paid off, repaid, and we are proposing to transfer the assets back to the Township of Oxford. They have agreed to accept these assets, and that way they will have ownership of their complete water and sewer system so they can make the best decisions possible. And this is being done just by way of one quitclaim deed that has all of the other deeds and easements attached. As you've noticed, is quite lengthy.
Any discussion? Hear none. Call the roll, please.
Spiz?
Yes.
Markham?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Wypert?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we have our second agenda item, Department of Information and Technology, Windstream contract number 004312, extension through 2022. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Oh, I'm sorry. Been moved by Commissioner Spiz, second by Commissioner Wyper.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Mike Tim, Director of IT. So I have actually two agenda items, but obviously we'll cover them in order that are related to Windstream. So the first one, 4312, as you've seen in your summary package, as well as the resolution. We currently contract with Windstream. You may recall about a month ago I brought in the Windstream voice contract. They provide our voice service outside of the county. And that was a contract extension that we needed to do based on the UCC or Universal Communication Project. These contracts that I'm bringing today, the first one is related to the maintenance of voice circuits, but specifically for public safety and the radio system. As you're aware, through the Finance Committee, and I believe also came into Economic Growth and Infrastructure a few months ago, Bob Dado and the Clemis team brought a major $56 million project for radio replacement. While we go through that project, the current radio system uses voice technology as a backup to supplant the radio in the event of a failure. That service is provided by Windstream under this contract 4312. As part of the new radio project, we'll replace these services, but at this time, as the contract has hit its 5-year life, we're requesting that we're able to extend it. Windstream has agreed to extend it at the same cost that we're paying today, and that's our recommendation, is to extend that. It will be phased out through the radio program.
Discussion?
I think
Yeah, Commissioner White.
Bob Dado suggested we make sure we extend these contracts.
Correct. Correct.
Presentations.
Yes, it provides a backup service for that public safety. It's just one of the most critical systems that we have.
Thank you.
Commissioner Spitz?
Can you elaborate on what's driving the 2022?
The timeframe?
Yeah.
Just the radio program itself is gonna have about a 3-year implementation time.
Okay, thank you.
And then, any more other discussion? I just, if you want to explain what you just handed out.
Yes, that's basically the first page of the contract amendment. We have an existing contract with Windstream, and this is an amendment to that contract that extends it out for 3 years. The second page of the amendment that I did not provide, and it's customary through past public safety presentations, is the addresses of the switch and site and central office locations for Windstream. We have that information, and I can share that with you personally, but we prefer not to include that in the public record.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Markham,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Wyford.
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, thank you. The next agenda item, number 3, is Department of Information Technology, Windstream contract number 004313 and number 004315, extension through 2022. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
So moved by Commissioner Spiz, second by Commissioner Powell.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. So these two contracts are, they're related to our UCC program as well as our disaster recovery. Windstream provides backup fiber circuits for us into a backup data center. So as you know, our primary data center is here on campus. We have a backup data center located at a Windstream facility in Farmington. Windstream provides dual path fiber. So if there's a cut, which happens actually fairly frequently, a cut in the fiber or some of the fiber runs above ground, so if a tree falls on it periodically, we have backup communications so that we can maintain access to that data center at all times. So Windstream provides that facility. Windstream also provides the data center disaster recovery site. So because of the dependency with our UCC program, which we're going through the network upgrade as well as the voice over IP upgrade or voice over IP project, again, those projects are expected to finish in about a 3-year time frame, and that's why we're requesting a 3-year extension. These contracts are also at the end of their 5-year life at the end of this year.
Any discussion? Commissioner Whiteford?
When you say break happens often, I would think that it wouldn't happen that often, but in the big scheme of things, it does?
Well, you know, with the amount of construction that goes on, normally these fiber optic cables are next to roadways, next to railways, but construction, whether it's you know, road construction or repair of a drain you know, installing new services. Cuts happen quite a bit underground. Not everybody calls Miss Dig when they're supposed to, or they don't hand dig when they should. And again, tree branches or, you know, some sort of natural occurrence. Frankly, we end up with cuts based on rodents as well. Squirrels eat a lot of cable.
On bigger systems, for staffs, like it's $10,000 a minute, or, I mean, some, when the bigger fibers are cut?
Oh, yes, yes. And that's why, again, most of this, because we support public safety, part of our strategy for data communications has been redundancy and backup.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Markham?
I have a question that's a little bit off topic, but since you're here. Texas just suffered a whole bunch of communities.
Yes, they did.
Got their cyber systems attacked and destroyed, and so can you give me some confidence that that's not gonna happen here?
We are extremely diligent in our security profile. And I'd be happy to go through some of the details with anybody individually offline. Some of that we obviously keep very close to the vest. But as that attack happened, that was a Friday night a week ago, we had folks reassessing, rescanning our servers, rescanning our network. We have several tools that monitor traffic on our network. One of the things that we've also done is a significant amount of email filtering. And the latest intelligence we have on the Texas attack and on most of these attacks is that it's email that comes in, someone clicks on a link or downloads an attachment. So we have significant filtering software that manages that for us. Some things do still get through. And so we're monitoring that constantly as well and updating the profile of our scanning software. The criminals are getting smarter all the time, and it is a constant struggle for us to continue to stay on top of those threats. Most of the intelligence, if you read the press, and we're also connected in with the FBI and with the state police and with MSISAC, which is a multi-state information sharing network. And then also organizations that sell security services, vendors that we use, they're all collaborating to help provide the latest information. So we spend a great deal of time on our server network, servers and networks and workstations are being scanned and updated. Every time we send patches out to your workstation and ask you to reboot or force you to reboot, and it happens a lot if you're on the county network, that's all to install patches. And most of the time breaches occur is patches that weren't installed. You know, that Microsoft released the patch 18 months ago, but the breach occurred in a server that wasn't patched. So we do an excellent job of staying up to date on patching because it's a key threat vector.
Thank you.
Commissioner
And
Whiteman?
part of that is the speed. I mean, as we have the fiber and it's just faster and faster and faster, it's keeping up with the attack, right?
Correct. Yeah, we've also implemented several network controls to help us, you know, basically block attacks as well. So if a breach does come in, that its scope is limited, and that's another security strategy. But frankly, many communities can't afford it. Some of the issues that have happened inside of Oakland County as well as other counties and in Texas, there are many places that don't have the resources to spend on information security that we have. And one of the problems that they end up with is that a virus or a threat will spread very quickly. And we have controls in place to help minimize that as well.
Which, just to add to what you just stated, which is one of the reasons we reach outside of this campus to help communities in Oakland County and outside of Oakland County.
Yes, we do.
We have assisted some outside of Oakland County when they have been attacked.
Well, and that's what
Historically.
makes our system so critical to be
does.
protected, double, triple, because a lot of communities depend on us,
Correct.
so, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's very true, and it is absolutely one of our highest priorities, every day and night.
So you don't get a lot of sleep then, you're saying?
I get a lot of wake-ups.
Is there any more discussion? I just had a quick one. So in my mind, when you say the backup center is from Windstream, reminds me of like somebody that has a generator on either their business or house. Every now and again, it like cycles. Is that what they do? Is they cycle to make sure theirs is good in case something happens to ours?
So the disaster recovery site that we contract with Windstream is actually a replication of our data center. So it's servers and storage and network that we can run from if we lose power or we need access and the data center here is not available.
No, I understand that. I was just asking do they test it every now and again, like every quarter to make sure everything's up and running up to par?
We test internally to make sure that we can access the data. And then as far as the physical facilities, aside from the generators and the UPS that we have here, Windstream also has that capability.
Okay.
And yes, it is standard testing. Our generators run, our facility guys are here, I believe it's at least monthly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we test them. And actually, sometimes we use them because the DTE power isn't as reliable as we'd like it.
Understood.
Best way to put that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and coming from the construction field, I understand what you mean about, I've seen some things on sites,
Yep.
cables hanging out, so, thank you. And if there's no more discussion, we'll call the roll, please.
Powell,
Yes.
Wipers?
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. All right, now we have the next agenda item is number 4, Department of Information Technology Interlocal Agreement, Comprehensive IT Services for the Interlocal Agreement.
I'll move it.
It's moved by Commissioner Wiper, second by Commissioner Markham.
All right, thank you again, Commissioners. So this is our standard IT service interlocal agreement. This is for 66th District Court up in Corunna, Michigan. They are obviously out of county, but they are signing on for our online payments and over-the-counter payments services through the G2G cloud services.
And that just follows up
Mr.
with
Wiper.
some of our last discussion where how many communities and outside agencies we do support, right? It's,
Yes, we're well over 200 communities that we support with these particular services. And those are separate from the services that we support through Clemis for law enforcement and fire management, and separate from the services we provide related to GIS systems.
and they
Yes.
just don't have the ability to do it, right? It's
They would have to contract with a third-party provider. I mean, basically, they're doing online payments or credit card payments for court fees and things at the court. So, many courts do provide that service to their customers through a third-party payment provider. One of the ideas of the G2G cloud solutions many years ago was that, we're doing this for Oakland County. We have the infrastructure. We work with payment card industry standards, so we are audited and we meet those standards. We provide those services out of our treasurer's office and out of the Parks and Rec, out of the parks. So the idea was, now that we have that service, we can provide that service at a discount to all these other government entities. So we only support government entities, but we do it at a cheaper cost than they can do it if they went to a third party.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Wipers?
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Powell? Miller?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. All right, now we have number 5, the 5th agenda item is Department of Information Technology amendments to exhibit, is that 13 of the Comprehensive Information Technology Service interlocal agreements. Do we have a motion to move? Moved by Commissioner Spiz, second by Commissioner Powell. I was just gonna say, just because you spread them out, doesn't mean you beat out the Water Resource Commission for having their long one in the beginning.
As
I'm
far
just kidding.
as volume of paper, yes.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't have any of those deeds or,
Good morning again.
all right, thank you very much. So, the IT services agreement we were just speaking about, the 66th District Court and many courts just sign up for the first two services, which are those payment services. As you may recall, we have, I think there are 16 different services that we have separate agreements for. This particular one, Exhibit 13, is for pictometry, which is one of our GIS services, Geographic Information Services. So pictometry, we contract at the county level to do flyovers. Primarily it's used for, the geographic views of the county, which are used out of treasurer and equalization. And it's available to the public, available specifically out to our communities. So this particular agreement with pictometry, we've entered into a new service agreement with Pictometry, who's the provider of that software, and they also do the flyover. So we have a new contract with them between us and the county. There were some updates to terms and conditions that our communities need to be aware of. So we've updated this exhibit to comprehend that, as well as some of you will recall we updated our electronic communication and technology usage policy that was countywide, and that talks about how you accept and how you use software from vendors. So we had to update this exhibit to acknowledge the fact that yes, you may click on the EULA, the end user license agreement, because we have entered into a contract at the county level. So they're really, administrative kinds of updates, but in order to keep the contracts clear and mean what they say, we wanted to update that based on our new contract.
Any discussion? I had one, is it a benefit for a community, a court or a city to get all of what we offer? Like all the.
There's no like volume discount, no.
Well, that's what I'm saying, like is it a benefit for the county if they were all with us, just, for logistic reasons or compatibility or anything of that sort?
Not necessarily for a particular, city, village, or township. I think where the benefit to the county and broader to the county taxpayers is that as we have been able to, build some critical mass in providing these services, it does benefit each individual that uses them. But they're very different, in and of, they each stand on their own basically. So, it doesn't really change the model to buy 10 of them versus 5 of them. But
Okay.
we've got multiple CVTs using 10 of them, and that helps, for each one of them individually,
Yeah, okay, thank you.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Spiz,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Powell. Wypert.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes,
Motion carries.
motion carries, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, now we have, the next agenda item is Facility Management Capital Improvement Program Report, for 2020 to 2029.
Just report.
It's been, moved by Commissioner Spiz, second by Commissioner Markham. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Just in case some of you aren't as familiar with these two gentlemen as I am, why don't I let them introduce themselves? They're my managers within facilities management. Ed?
All right, good morning. I'm Ed Joss. I'm the manager of facilities planning and engineering.
And I'm Joe Murphy, Manager of Maintenance and Operations.
Before Mike left, I just wanted to thank him for finally yielding the floor to us. I wanted to just give a brief overview of the capital improvement plan. If you were to look at this page, which is 3 pages in, this is the summary of the capital improvement program. You'll notice that it's a 10-year plan. The first 5 years are presented in detail, and management and budget takes that first 5 years and incorporates that into their triennial budget. The last column is the second 5 years, and that's simply meant to give an idea of how much money we're gonna need long-term. There's also a future projects page, which, same thing, it's giving an indication of what kind of money may be needed long-term. That generally shows things like new major construction. So there's a sheriff's tactical training center, a dispatch center, and 2 new courthouses, for example, that are in that list. Now, going back to the actual capital improvement program, a few bullet points. The projects that are included in there may be performed. This is not a fixed in stone plan. It gets updated every year. The county executive has to give our department approval before we proceed with the project. Then we have to come to you to get approval to proceed with the project. And then of course every year priorities may change a little bit, and so the projects may be pushed off a little bit or may even drop off entirely. All of the projects that you see in here are funded by the building fund. That building fund receives $5.5 million from the general fund every year. That's how we keep the balance up, and we never use it all up, and we're able to continue to add new projects in. You'll notice in 2020 and 2021 that the plan tends to be a bit front-loaded. That's a reflection of our effort to try and get the higher priority projects done sooner rather than later. The prioritization is based obviously on input from the departments, them telling us how important they think it is. Then it's based secondarily on the resources that we have available to do the project in any given year. And then, of course, what the county executive's priorities are after they review the capital improvement plan. The highest dollar categories, and categories are if you look at the item number to the far left on that schedule there, the categories are what's described under the building projects column. So roof replacements, that's a category, for example. The highest dollar categories in 2020 are life safety, security, and ADA improvements. That's a reflection of the fact that there's a $37 million bond issue that's coming up. Hopefully, this is all in management and budget's hands, but hopefully that bond issue will take place sometime this fall, and we should have the money in our hands, meaning facilities, by the beginning of the next calendar year. You'll notice that $37 million is twice the level of the 2020 capital improvement plan for 2020. Okay, so there's $19 million in the CIP for 2020. We're getting $37 million that's spread out over several years in this plan, but the point is our department is geared up for the capital improvement plan. This $37 million is a big hit for us, and all of that money is for our department to make improvements. So we'll be needing to talk to the board later on about how we're going to handle that. Beyond those 3 categories, the life safety, security, and ADA, the largest dollar amount categories overall are parking lots, roads, roofs, windows, steam tunnels, water mains, and utility lines. And you'll notice that all those categories are infrastructure improvements, right? That's our core function, is to keep the county's building and grounds and infrastructure operating. And that's a reflection of why those dollar amounts are so large over the 10 years. And at this point, I'll just open it up to any questions that you might have.
And the bonds are gonna be sold as needed, right? It's not gonna be, it's gonna be one sale for $33 million, or are you gonna stagger it?
This is my understanding, so that'll be a good question for management and budget, but I thought that there were 2, maybe 3 sales over the first 2 or 3 years. But the last time I had heard discussion of that was probably 6 months ago, maybe 7 months ago. Oh, Holly, do you know?
If you've heard more current, I thought
No.
it was one issue.
Okay.
Okay, so there you go.
I know there's some, in previous meetings, they talked about timing them. So, it's
Yeah.
gonna be one sale.
But again, that was back at the beginning of the year that I heard discussion about that, so I'm sure Holly would know more than I do, so.
And Nick?
Any other discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, it's you over there.
I have
Over there.
a bunch of pages of questions. You kind of probably-
Fire away.
Okay, so, thank you for the level of detail that you've got here. It's very helpful. You know, as we've talked since I got on the board, my long-term goal for this county is for us to be net zero carbon load by, say, 2040, just for a number to throw out there. So a lot of my questions are kind of geared toward that. What can we do as we make all these improvements to go more green? And, or you and I have talked about things like green roofs and so on. Okay, I made notes in my committee meeting. I'll save the budget review notes for the budget review, right? So, ADA compliance is one of your priority issues. I'm wondering about this building. There is not an ADA compliant bathroom in this building for someone in a wheelchair. It says if you want to use an ADA compliant bathroom, you have to go out into the south lobby. And I'm wondering if we're ever going to remedy that within the building, since this is the place the public comes.
Yeah, so we do have strategically located bathrooms that have been upgraded over time to be ADA compliant. But you're right, they're in certain locations, not all of the bathrooms are. The ADA dollars that are included in that bond issue are meant to get further down that road, okay? But there are a lot of ADA issues, and you don't want to spend all of the money to fix one type of ADA issue when you should really be prioritizing which ADA issues are most important. So there are some bathrooms included in that. There are other, like access into the building, so things outside, making sure that they're ADA compliant, like putting an additional handicap ramp on the northeast entrance into the courthouse. So the short answer is yes, we are going to be addressing more of the bathrooms, but I can't promise that all the bathrooms in the courthouse will be ADA compliant when we're done. Okay.
I'd just like in this particular building, because it is a place where the public comes to meetings and so on, you have to go through a double door if you're in a wheelchair.
Yeah, no, that's a valid point. Ed?
I was just gonna add in, I don't disagree with what you say, and we would have to take a look at, the projects that we have planned for this building and where that might be. I just want everybody to realize that, to Art's point about prioritizing those dollars, and just using this area as an example, again, I don't disagree with you that we should probably have an ADA restroom here, but by providing ADA toilet rooms in strategic locations, that a lot of times will satisfy the ADA requirements so that all the toilet rooms don't have to be ADA compliant. Yes, it would be nice if all the toilet rooms were ADA compliant, but if we're satisfying the codes for ADA by providing the ones that we have, then the other ones usually fall to the bottom of the priority list because there are other ADA obligations that we have that must be done. So that's a situation we run into sometimes, and that may be the situation that we've run into in the past with the particular restrooms in this building.
Okay, just wanted to get it on your radar. It hasn't made sense to me since I started coming here, so.
Okay.
And then, I don't know that you can address this right now, but I just want to put it out there. Again, as you're looking at roof replacements, can we be looking at green roofs and alternatives to take us more toward net zero? And also, the same with the HVAC. You're doing a lot of HVAC upgrades. Looking at those for the energy usage and, you know, are there alternatives to what we're doing? And, you know, I want your department thinking long-term about going green. That's where I'm coming from, and I hope to see more of that as we go forward in your plans. I don't expect specifics right now. In terms of your civil projects,
Can I
things
just
like
make
the, oh,
one
I'm
comment
sorry.
about that. So hopefully, Commissioner, you know that I'd be happy to do that.
Yes,
In many cases, in some cases, that means that the upfront cost may be higher than what we were planning, what you see in this plan.
mhm,
Which means, as you just said a moment ago, about as we go down the road, that simply may require some more upfront funding so that we're saving the energy costs after the fact.
right, and that's one of my later questions, is the idea of calculating the ROI on some of these projects. The traditional way we do it doesn't really capture the fact that you're gonna save money longer term, kind of thing.
When we go to, I think Ed was about to say something.
No, go ahead and finish, but yeah, I'd like to comment.
Many times when we go to the BTF, the Budget Task Force, we do bring an ROI there. But in a resolution, we typically don't
Right.
show that background material. But you're right, especially when it comes to green projects, you oftentimes need to show that. And so maybe there's a way that as we look at the resolution structure in the future, that sort of thing can be highlighted some way.
Mhm.
So I'll be happy to talk more about that too.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think just changing the way we talk about it, look at the numbers, can help drive us where we wanna go. And then, in your civil projects, you got a bunch of parking lot upgrades. Are we doing any permeable paving in those parking lots?
We have,
Mhm.
we have not done a lot of them. I think our most recent one that we did might have been one of the Parks and Rec lots. We do, we look at it as an option for our lots, and with working with our engineers, sometimes it makes sense, and apparently sometimes it doesn't. So that is something that we definitely have on our radar and look at as an option when we're we design each lot specifically based on its location and conditions. We don't have one blanket spec or standard for all of our parking lots because the base, the grade, the contours, all of those things may differ for each lot, and that could affect the type of design that we use for that particular lot to try to get the longest life out of it that we can.
Okay. And then, just throwing this out there, as we're building parking lots or redoing parking lots, putting electric charging stations in, a couple of them in each lot if we can, and work with the vendors that are out there. You know, I don't know how aware you are of what the state is doing, trying to put in a network now of charging stations. And I think this whole charging station topic is gonna really explode in the next year and a half or so with the car companies, the charging companies, and the municipalities that really wanna get them in. So I wanna see those at least considered in the plans for the parking lots here, especially the big lots, you know.
And what just real quick, what we've tried to do in most instances is at a minimum provide the conduits. So if someone does come in, one of the vendors or suppliers and wants to help offset the cost with providing the locations, we at least don't have to tear up parking lots to do it. So we are trying to think ahead at least to that aspect.
Good, so, and you did that out here, I know. So when
Correct.
we get a charging station, Marcia and I can both charge our cars. Okay, roofs, bathroom, HVAC, parking lots. My last question is, how do ideas get onto the CIP?
Two ways. One, internally, these two will do evaluations of all the items in these categories every year They'll literally go up on every roof every year. They'll walk the sidewalks, they'll walk the parking lots. We have our mechanics and our building maintenance supervisors going through all the mechanical systems every year. And when they see a progression of maintenance needs, or that something that's quite old is reaching the point where we have a hard time getting replacement parts, then it shows up. They tell me, I make sure it gets into the CIP. The other way is that the departments come to us with their needs. So for example, the remodeling category that's in here, there was a juvenile intake remodeling that was in, I think it was last year's plan, for the circuit court in the east wing, where they wanted to remodel a large part of one of the floors because of how cramped it is and how inefficient, and also the security issues that it presented when they're bringing juveniles into custody, or taking juveniles away from their parents. It can get pretty heated over there. So that's a request that came to us. It obviously was a high priority. We then take it, we figure out what the costs are, get approval from the budget task force, it makes it into the capital improvement plan. And then when we're ready to actually we do the bidding and we actually have the hard numbers, then we're ready to bring a resolution to you.
Okay, thank you.
Now, that means that the board can make those requests too, to us. It's not just the other departments, but
That's a little bit of where I was coming from.
I was suspecting as much.
Okay, well, that is all the questions I have. Thank you very much.
I just want to
Commissioner
follow up on what Commissioner Markham said on the parking lots. Is it a bigger cost when you're redoing a parking lot to come up with the permeable surfaces? Or, I know you're talking about the grades and if it's a complete tear out or just a resurfacing. I mean, what is the difference to?
I'll be honest, as far as the cost goes, I can't comment on that right now just because I don't know the for sure answer. I do know that I think that there's been maybe challenges with, with the salting and the conditions that we get in the winter, and how some of that might hold up. So I think those types of things are the types of considerations that are taken into place when we're seeing how efficiently we can manage the water, the storm water, with or without it.
I'm just gonna follow, the public hasn't seen, but the capital improvements has 12 projects for 64 million. Roof replacement is 10 million, environmental 6 million, life safety is 8 million, electrical is 900,000, building security was 10 million, and then the civil projects is another 30 million. So parking lot paving was 11 million, utility upgrades 4 million, so these are big projects that I don't think the public realizes we're dealing with.
Right.
And it's, I guess to add to that, it's more than just this location, it's all the county buildings around the county.
Correct.
Yeah, all of our satellite facilities. And, Art had mentioned earlier, how the priorities are set, as far as requests coming from the departments and then administration weighing in. But he also touched on it too, that, we really have, our main priorities are to, provide safe environments for the public and for the county employees. So, life safety, security, and then of course protecting the county's assets, right? We're not gonna let a leaking roof continue to leak, and before you know it, it spreads, and we've got millions of dollars of repairs. So those things also take a very high priority, and you'll probably see that in this plan, right? That the categories that are listed here, the majority of them are maintenance type items where we have to either upgrade or replace things to provide those safe environments or to protect our assets. The one line item, let's see, it is under building projects, and it's number 9, remodel renovations to county buildings. That's where you would find the majority of the requests from the departments. You know, those ones might be more discretionary in nature, whereas the other ones are non-discretionary ones that we really have to do. And then just one other note, you'll see the last category under both building projects and under civil projects is miscellaneous, because of course, things pop up, right? There are needs, either that we realize that are non-discretionary in nature, or a department or administration or the board may come to us with a need. And that gives us a little flexibility to go ahead and move forward with that project in this fiscal year without having to wait a whole nother year to try to get it into next year's plan.
Well, you're two miscellaneous, you, in the capital improvement, 200,000, and then the civil, you only have budget 0.
Right, so Mike and Connie asked me why that was the case too. And last year, you'll notice that there was money in both of those. As we get more, so we get the 5.5 million from the general fund every year, that's fixed. But as we get more or less project requests from the departments, that leaves less money to fall down to that miscellaneous CIP. We try and get all the projects into the plan first, and then basically whatever money we have left over that we can afford to use for that flexibility, as Ed mentioned, that goes into that miscellaneous line. This year, we didn't have enough money to put it in both categories, so hopefully next year we will, but it depends, it changes every year. And Holly did just mention to me, Commissioner Weipert, that it does look like the bonds will be issued and multiple issued.
That's what I thought. And just follow, so, but input from commissioners or departments, I mean, there is $2 million. That's the thing where remodeling, when you get input from the different departments on things to do. So it's kind of not discretionary, but that's where you're projecting you're gonna do things for different departments.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the only category that we have department requests in, but as, you know, that's the remodeling and renovation requests we get all the time from departments, so.
Yep, my question, comment is similar to Commissioner Markham's. Looking through this list, and it may be hidden in one of the items, but I know on the outside in the private sector, a lot of organizations are modifying their lighting, and they're actually doing it quicker than later because the cost benefit is less than a year to switch to like LED, for example. So they're doing separate projects for that, and I didn't necessarily see it in here. I'm assuming, or I believe that under any new project, you're already doing all that energy efficient, new HVAC system, new LED lighting, will all be as efficient as you can get it. But I didn't see any projects in here per se that we're gonna go through and modify all the parking lot lighting to be solar, or we're gonna do, like this conference room will be all LED because we can save over time, we can reduce the cost. In less than a year, it pays itself off on the ROI, which I know you have it in the budget task force, but, so I don't know if it's worked in here somewhere else, or if we need to have side discussions about doing some of those bigger projects relative to that could save not only energy, but save the county a lot of money quickly, and I call it low-hanging fruit, that you can do those projects and they pay themselves off real quick, and then you can use that fund for something else. I didn't see that in here per se.
Actually, our parking lot lights have already been done with LED, and in the month of September, you'll be seeing a resolution for the 2019 out of the CIP for wall packs and the walkway lighting coming through. The bids just came in and we're getting ready to write the resolutions. So we have to be careful too when we're looking at new technologies and jumping in early, because we don't want a situation where we put a whole bunch of LED parking lot lights in because we're in the forefront of doing it, and then in a year and a half, 2 years, they fail. So we do our due diligence and research that when we do put in the technologies, that they are lasting and we're getting the payback that we need to. And I think we talked to our chief electrician, I think we might have only had one issue with our LED parking lot lights since we put them in. So that's a good thing.
And I would appreciate and respect that, from a quality perspective, yes, I like that, you know, we should be looking for the best supplier, the best product we can find out there. But from an LED standpoint, a lot of the technology out there has been proven over the years to be high quality and last a long time and reduce costs drastically.
Yeah, the outdoor stuff for sure. The indoor fluorescent replacements has taken longer, and could you talk a little bit about that, what you're doing already with the fluorescent replacements?
The new animal shelter has LED interior lights in it. We've done a project this year out in Southfield when we did a renovation of a building. We've upgraded all interior LED lights on the second floor at Southfield Health, and the remodel at Public Works is just recently going on, has LED new technologies going in there as well.
And that's all good to hear. I think I'm looking to push a little farther than
Yep.
that. You know, doing remodels, I expect you guys are looking out for the highest quality, you know, the highest energy efficient stuff we can get out there in the marketplace. But is there specific projects we can look at from the lighting by itself without a remodel that saves us money within a year, 2 years at most, and gets a very quick ROI for the taxpayers of Oakland County? I mean, there is projects out there. I mean, I've seen it in the private sector because we're doing it ourselves. You know, replacing some of our upper bay lights because they're expensive to run, the bulbs are expensive. And you go to LED, you get your cost, it's 6-month payoff in some cases. Not saying it would be here, but I'm just asking to push a little bit more in some of those areas. I'm not necessarily looking to go as far as Commissioner Markham is, but in some of these lower ones, I think we can do it, you know, and get some advantage for all the taxpayers in Oakland County. We can come to agreement on some of those, yeah.
I think that'd be fine. I'm back in, when we had the EECBG grant from the federal government, it was about 10 years ago. That was when the T8s were coming in as replacements for T12s. So we used that money to do, you know, a wholesale replacement of T12s in numerous buildings. So to start moving in that direction with the LEDs, I think we're pretty safe now with the technology, you know, the interior ones. So we'll take a look at how we might be able to do that.
Commissioner Markham.
I just have one more question that Commissioner Spiz triggered me to. The wastewater treatment plant, the new one that we just put in, generates, I'm told, 10 times more methane than the old one, which we could capture and either sell or use to fuel other things. So are there any plans to do that with that facility right now, or is it just kind of?
Since that's under the Water Resource Commissioner.
Right.
To be honest, I don't know what his plans are for that.
Okay.
If there was compressed methane gas that could be used in a fueling station, then Central Services should be consulted about that. I honestly don't know if that's something that can be used in our steam plant as a replacement for natural gas or not. or if
I
it's
just think the
sustainable.
discussion needs to get started. It sounds like there's an opportunity there that, I'll talk to the water resources people, but yeah,
I believe they're thinking, I mean, they brought it up in the past.
yeah.
Yes, they have.
So, you know, I'd like to see that move forward, because again, that's a way to make some money or use the material ourselves in places that
Right.
we're currently using some other form of fuel, so. Okay, that's the only other question I had. Thank you.
Any other questions? The switch over, because I come from the boiler HVAC field as well, it's like, the only way I can explain it is, reminds me of the Johnny Cash song, One Piece at a Time. Like having the transfer from a 67 to 78, like motor to trans, right? So I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but there's probably a lot of stuff, because it's new technology, right?
Right.
The one thing about the ADA, was she talking about bathrooms? So at night, how would, because we have security, these doors are locked, how would somebody in a wheelchair get to one of those bathrooms?
That occurred to me too when Commissioner Markham had brought that up.
Yeah,
And when it occurred to me, I realized, yeah, that's a potentially big problem, so.
okay, that was the question I had, and then the other one was just
They can always be escorted,
right,
Right.
but
Yes.
yes, I understand what the issue is.
but it's not like free to go to the bath, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, definitely difficult, so we appreciate you guys looking into it, and you're thinking about it already. And then I was thinking, I saw, if we go to solar panel, driveways and streets, I've seen this technology that's coming out with, where drainage, I don't know if you guys seen
not
it yet.
done.
I've seen it here, you got a long way to go yet.
There's a long way, but we wouldn't have to worry about anything, so we just lift up a panel, put in, stations, we'd be good to go.
If you wanna start philosophizing that, I'd be more than happy to sit down with you guys and give you some ideas of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I would rather see it instead of doing driveways, if we're doing a roof, put it on the roof.
Put them on the
Yeah.
roof, that, yeah.
To
Everywhere.
me, that should be a state code, but that's me.
We didn't really talk about solar at all, but yeah.
Yeah. So, that's all the questions I had. Is that any more? All right. Call the roll, please.
Spiz,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Powell, Wypert,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank
All right,
you, everybody.
No
Thank
other
you.
agenda items. Do we have any other business? All right, we'll call adjournment at 10:31.